This webinar will be dedicated to packaged food products. So far, we've definitely drilled in the fact that your diet should be predominantly filled with less processed whole foods, but it's completely normal and totally fine to be purchasing packaged food items as well. But we know that navigating the health claims on these packaged items can be a little bit overwhelming. Do the words sugar-free, no added sugar, fat-free, high protein all mean that the item is good for you? The answer isn't a simple yes or no. But hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll feel more equipped to navigate the tons of health claims on packages that we see at the grocery store. So the three key takeaway messages we've got for today is that number one, nutrition claims are helpful because they do educate us on the nutritional benefits of packaged foods. But in saying that, it doesn't mean that special attractive labels like sugar-free or fat-free mean that this product is superior. This is because regardless of whatever the packaged item says, we don't want these things to displace other whole foods in our diet. Okay, so when it comes to nutrition and packaged products, the most important information that you're going to get is on the back or on the side. Here we see the ingredients list and the nutrition information panel. The ingredients are listed in weight order. So this means the ones that are first make up the bulk weight of the entire item. There's lots of information on this slide, so feel free to pause it at any time as we won't have time to go through all the finer details. Next, we've got this table right here, and it's called the Nutrition Information Panel. Here you'll find the average quantity for a bunch of nutrients per serve and per 100 grams. Now, we've got stars around the 100 grams circle because when comparing similar products, always look at this column. This is because the serve size is actually left to the discretion of the manufacturer, and it doesn't always indicate a proper recommended serve. If you would like to know more information about what is considered a recommended serve for each food type, we have provided a link to the Eat for Health website in the description. Legislation requires a quantity for energy, protein, fat, saturated fat, carbohydrates, sugar, and sodium. And anything else is put on there because a health claim has been made about it. So we can see here on the front of this package, it has good source of fiber, and this is why the amount of dietary fiber is also listed.
Now let's take a look at the front of this muesli packet. We've circled in white what we call nutrition content claims, which essentially means that they contain enough of a nutrient to be considered a good source of it. You can actually access the thresholds for each health claim, which are set and regulated by the Government Food Standards Authority body. We'll provide a link to this in the description if you're interested. So this muesli is a source of protein, has a low glycemic index, and is a good source of fiber. Overall, we would consider this a good purchase, not just because of these claims though, but because it's a relatively unprocessed whole grain product. It also has a health star rating of 4.5, but we'll go into health star ratings in a bit. There's lots of information on packaged food items, but we hope that these two slides have shown you that you can find whatever you're looking for. So as we said before, it is a requirement on food packaging to list the amount of sugar, saturated fat, and sodium, which indicates salt content. The industry mainly uses these three ingredients for a combination of their taste and preservation effects. But there are essentially lots of evidence to say that too much of these in our diet leads to poor health outcomes, especially considering that the foods high in these nutrients are very delicious, so they're easy to overeat. Added and refined sugars can increase the kilojoule content of our diet, leading to unwanted weight gain, and overconsumption can lead to the potential to develop obesity and diabetes. Frequently consuming foods and drinks with lots of added sugar also contributes to tooth decay. Evidence has consistently shown as well that a diet high in saturated fat is associated with heart disease. And the evidence is also consistent for a diet high in salt being associated with high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. Majority of Australians aged over 2 years old exceed the ideal level of sodium, and that doesn't include adding salt at the table or during cooking. So it's not a surprise that stroke is one of Australia's biggest killers. It kills more women than breast cancer and more men than prostate cancer.
So alongside saturated fat and salt, we've just told you that too much sugar is bad for your health. Does that mean we're telling you to go sugar-free? Sugar has been demonized in the media for years, and removing it has been the focal point of many crash diets. Some even ban fruit for their sugar content, which is crazy. When we talk about sugar, we are talking about glucose, which is essentially what makes up carbohydrates. This glucose is actually what our gut absorbs after our stomach breaks down the carbohydrates. So basically, it's nearly impossible to have a sugar-free diet because carbohydrates are in such a broad variety of foods. Breads and cereals are vital sources of iron, dietary fiber, B vitamins, and iodine. Fruits have lots of natural sugar, but that doesn't mean they're bad. They are full of micronutrients and phytochemicals that actively prevent against disease. As we are aware, sugar is also added as ingredients to foods. Commonly added sugars include sucrose from sugarcane and sugar beet, corn syrups, and honey. So there's been a lot of sugar-free treat products that have come out in the last couple of years. But is it actually healthier? You may perceive these items to be better for you, or you may have heard that someone say that they're actually not much better for you at all than the real thing. So let's compare this sugar-free donut with a regular donut from Coles. So even though the No Shoe product has only 1.2 grams of sugar, keep in mind that it's smaller than the Coles donut. Per gram, the kilojoule content, which is the energy content, is actually very similar. The No Shoe donut does have double the protein, which is a win, but it also contains almost double the saturated fat, which is definitely not a win. We haven't even spoken about the cost and the taste. So would we recommend this product? At the end of the day, they're both donuts, and one isn't better than the other. Both are highly processed. Just look at those ingredients. With similar energy contents, 7.3 grams of saturated fat may not seem like a lot, but this is actually a third of what the Australian Dietary Guidelines recommends, which is the same as 4 teaspoons of butter. So basically, we really don't want you to fall into the sugar-free trap. Quite often, recipes and products marketed as sugar-free are actually made up with some kind of sugar alternative. These Anzac cookies, for example, are made with rice malt syrup, which is technically a sugar alternative, and it actually increases blood sugar levels more rapidly than regular white sugar. We don't need to demonize a single nutrient. Foods with added sugar can still be part of a healthy diet. Let's look at Sultana Bran and Fruit Loops. The sugar content between these two cereals is quite similar, but we get more benefit from a high fiber whole grain cereal like Sultana Bran over Fruit Loops.
Now we're going to delve into gluten. Gluten is actually a protein, but due to negative attention from the media, many people have opted for a gluten-free diet as they believe it to be much healthier. But because gluten is found in many grains, the alternatives that manufacturers use have very little fiber in them. There is also no mandatory addition of vitamins or minerals, unlike gluten-containing products, which means it isn't as nutritious. And due to manufacturers trying to achieve the ideal texture without the gluten protein to hold everything together, it is highly processed, not to mention how expensive gluten-free products are. So what does the research say about all this? A very high quality study looking at 100,000 people without an allergy to gluten over 26 years found that there was no association between non-celiac individuals and their risk of heart disease, even if they ate gluten for a long time. In fact, those that avoided gluten actually had an increased risk of heart disease because they had less whole grains in their diet. Thinking back to webinar 1, whole grains have been researched to be as important as vegetables in reducing your risk of heart disease. Now we're going to wrap up this webinar with the infamous Health Star rating. The Health Star rating is a tool that has been developed to assess the healthiness of a packaged food based on its overall nutrient profile. It is currently not compulsory for all products, so food companies can choose whether to display it on their items or not. It calculates items based on their energy content, risky nutrients, which subtract points, and then good nutrients, which add points. Let's delve into the pros and cons. There are some pros and cons to the Health Star rating. It does provide a quick, easy, standardized way to compare similar packaged food items, which can improve your purchasing decisions. However, it is based only on nutrient profile. It doesn't consider the level of processing. It is also voluntary and can be manipulated by manufacturers to improve their score without necessarily changing the healthiness of their product too much. It's definitely not a foolproof system, and that's predominantly because nutrition science as a whole has moved away from demonizing single nutrients. Using the Health Star rating formula, olive oil is scored lower than canola oil, but the reality is that olive oil has a range of other health benefits that isn't considered by this formula. Finally, just because something has a bad Health Star rating, it doesn't mean you shouldn't get it. Most packaged food items are quite processed. Yes, Tim Tams have a 0.5 Health Star rating, but does that mean you should never eat a Tim Tam? If it's what you're craving, allow yourself to have one. If you're genuinely hungry and could eat a whole packet of Tim Tams, then maybe you should consider sitting down and having a substantial, balanced meal. Have you had enough to drink today? Having a good relationship with food means listening to your hunger cues.
So we've packed quite a bit of information in this webinar, but the key messages we want you to take away are that, yes, how some health claims are helpful and can be used to compare between similar products. Keyword similar products, but it doesn't mean that one product is superior over the other. It's fine to include packaged foods in your diet, so long as they're not replacing those whole foods that we also recommend. Thank you for listening.